Good afternoon and welcome to Let's Talk Destiny Talk Show. I am so blessed today to have with me one of my favorite young ladies, Miss Chantay West. Chantay has a big and generous heart, sometimes to a fault, and she has a smile that lights up the atmosphere. And I'm just really blessed to know her and to watch her blossom into the beautiful flower that God created her to be. This month, as you know, our theme is Free to Be Me with Purpose-Driven Freedom. And so we're talking this month about our journey to a place of freedom where we feel free to be happy, we feel free to be released from other people's opinions, other people's approval, and just free to be what God has called us to be and to fulfill our purpose. And so today, Chantay and I are going to talk about her journey to this place of purpose-driven freedom. Good afternoon, Chantay.
Good afternoon.
Good to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Okay, so first I want to talk to you about, ask you this question. How important is it to you to have family support when fulfilling your purpose?
Very important, but I found like going on this journey that the family don't necessarily believe that you could carry it out. Honestly, they don't really say it that, but I mean, sometimes it feels that way. Like, you know that they're there to support you, but it doesn't feel.
And that's the reason why it's called a personal freedom, you reach a level of development where you can do this without the support of other people that you anticipate would support you. And then you find that God sends along the people support you that you didn't even anticipate. So let me ask you this question. Do you remember a time in your life when you felt restricted or bound to other people's beliefs, you were controlled or manipulated to the point where you felt you were not fulfilling your purpose?
Yes, for mostly my entire life. Certain way, like in a certain environment, I feel like that affected a lot of the way I thought and the way I did. So sometimes if I went against things that I believed, myself, but for the sake of like tradition, for the family had always things, like I kind of stayed stagnant in that. So.
Okay. Do you remember exactly at what point on your journey that you, once recognizing that you were being manipulated and controlled and restricted by other people, what occurred to make you decide, I don't want to do this way anymore?
I would say it probably started around like 2 to 3 years ago. It kind of got to a point where I felt like I was just in this dark space. Like, okay, what really am I here for? Honestly, like I know everybody has a purpose and I know everybody has a duty to do in this earth, but I just felt like I was just like existing, but like I felt like I was doing what I had to do at the time, but it wasn't like fulfilling in a sense. Like, I didn't feel like that's what I was created to do, honestly. And so I would say like 2 to 3 years ago, it started. And then it's like during this last year is when I've seen it like kind of transform, because it allowed me to start to see who I really am. You know what I mean? Like I'm really becoming who I was created to be versus not just a model of what I saw or what I was around.
Yes. All right, now let me ask you this question. Each of us have experienced that place, that dark place, that place where we say there's more to life than this. There's something else I'm supposed to be doing other than this right here. But as we go through that transition sometimes and we get stuck in the mud and so forth and so on, we find ourselves doing things that kind of cover up how we really feel. And whether it's a little bit of alcohol, maybe it's a little bit of pills, maybe it's getting into abusive relationships. I've seen that happen a lot. And I've been there myself, into relationships where you know it was not good for you, but you just didn't want to deal with whatever you were dealing with alone. So you just put up with a lot of junk that you shouldn't have to have put up with. What things would you share that you went through during that dark time to help you cope?
During my dark time, okay. During my dark times, my main go-to was marijuana and alcohol. And I feel like alcohol was just a big addiction, like throughout the family. That was just like a big thing. It seemed like we turned to alcohol for everything. So alcohol really was my biggest one, but I will also say marijuana. I back when I was younger, like I used to pop like certain pills, but it wasn't like to the point where I was strung out on them. So like pills, I was easily able to get rid of, but it was like the alcohol, you know, I still had it here and there. And like even one, I still had it here and there. Whereas, you know, it wasn't to the point where I needed it all the time, you know, like, cause I remember at one point, like it was almost like every day, all day. But it was like I had got tired of that because I was like, it has to be more. It has to be more. And then it's like that light goes off. But then, like you say, you're dealing with so much. And then especially like in relationships, like you're dealing with so much. So then you have what you got going on. Now you have this partner here, and it's like they got going on, getting on your nerves. So it's like, you know, that's all flashes. So what do I do? Go get drunk or something and then come back and figure it out, not realizing that every time I did it, I was just setting myself back even more because the reality of it was still there. It's just I was temporarily getting rid of it. Well, I thought at the moment, but it was just a temporary fix at the time. But it was still there. So I still had to face it. So it's like being able to just sit still and being able to really face it now has been the biggest thing for me. And then journaling and writing things out have been the biggest thing.
Awesome. And I think you said something very important. You mentioned a light bulb coming on. And I think that until a person has that personal light bulb experience for themselves, you can tell them day and night, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You're better than that. You deserve better than that. Mm-hmm. But each person, I think, has to, on their journey, come to that place where they say, you know what, this is not working for me. I deserve better than this. And I'm going to start taking small steps toward my personal freedom. Now, let me ask you this question also. I've watched you in a short amount of time that I've known you, and I've seen you grow by leaps and bounds. And I've seen you progress in so many areas. And one of the things that you and I talk about frequently is your writing. And I think that's awesome because that is a very good way to express your feelings without having to have confrontation with people in conversation. You can just write down what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, or whatever. So how do you feel that this writing project is helping you on your journey to fulfill your purpose?
Helping me to be more consistent, first of all, because at one point, like I would hit and like write something. Just that's some of the best days to express feelings, how I truly feel, because like you can say it, but it's like turn it and then go back and reread it. It's like it makes you wow. Those feelings you to look at yourself and see the areas that you need improvement, and which it is helped me to do that.
Awesome. And a lot of people who write, you know, including myself, say the same thing. I have like journals and journals and journals of things that I could like publish a book every 6 months if I really would sit down and do the work because of so much stuff that I've written. But I noticed this morning something came up in my memory on social media, and I think I shared it with you, that there was a time when I wrote because I felt I had no voice. I couldn't talk, I couldn't share my feelings, so I just wrote it down. But now I write because I realize I do have a voice. Yes. And that voice, sharing that, has become a part of my journey. So I believe that what you're writing, what you're getting ready to release, is definitely a part of your purpose. What concerns do you have about publishing what you're writing? Are you nervous about it, fearful about it, concerned about how it will be received?
No, at first I was. I'm learning that from my viewpoint, it's like not to make anyone feel bad. It's not to make anybody look bad, but it's how I felt, the things that I had to go through all throughout life. And hopefully my story can help the next person. Like, cause I felt like that too. How you just said, you felt your voice. It was to the point where I wouldn't say anything, you know, like just grin and bear it, you know, but then it's like you go home at night and then here you are soaking your pillow, you know, crying out to yourself or crying out to God because like, you know, face so many things and you're like, why? But then it's like, when you look back at it now and you can see like, even if I can just help that one person, like all of that I went through, because we know it's never for ourselves. And in that moment, we get selfish with it and we try to own it, you know, but I feel like it's never for ourselves. So if just my story can help just that one person, at first, to go back to your question, I feel like at first I was a little fearful, but then also, you know, like that fear of rejection, that type of thing kind of tries to creep in. So I just learned that to combat that with positive thoughts, because it comes daily, but definitely changing it to positive has been a great thing for me as well. Because for so long, I would just stay stuck in that like negative mindset, but like being able to counteract it with positive stuff has been so much better.
And absolutely, without any question at all, your journey and sharing your journey is going to continue to bless multitudes of people, because there are people who are still stuck. There are young women in your age group who are still feeling voiceless, like they, because sometimes you share things with people and then they share it with other people, and then, you know, next thing you know, you're the talk of the town. And so people stop wanting to share because it's like, you know, I'm sharing this with you in confidence and you basically putting it on a billboard on the highway. And so that causes people to shut down. But I noticed, you know, as like I said, I watch you and listen to you and I can see that light shining even brighter and I see you growing. And I know for a fact that what you're sharing and what you're going through is going to bless other people. And sometimes the reality is we don't live life alone. So of course, there are going to be other people involved in our journey. And sometimes it's just not going to be positive, just the way it is. Like our relationships won't always be positive. Even with family, you won't always get along. And that's just the way it is. Like, you know, somebody said some time ago, if you wanted a better part in my story, you should have treated me better. And so I remind myself every now and then when you share something, it's not like you said, it's not like you just want to say, well, let me see who I can hurt today. But if it happened, it happened. And if we're going to be free, then we first of all have to be honest. And we have to acknowledge that there are things in our life that were not pleasant, they were not good, they didn't feel good, and they didn't produce good. But they were lessons that we carry with us to this point. So your writing is a part of your purpose for your way to express your freedom. What other things do you have in mind and in your heart that you're going to use to share your purpose?
I'm currently on a 30-day, it's a journey facing her with 8 other ladies. And during this 30-day journey, what we're basically doing is like the same thing we're talking about. We're trying to free ourselves from past hurts, rejections, any kind of traumas. You know, we meet up every once a week, and then every day we have like an inspirational type thing. We journal every day. We have like a worship type thing every day. So it's something daily just to keep your mind occupied, but also like to help other people, because like, again, back to those that feel like they have no voice. So you know, even while I feel like I'm still on this healing journey, like I'm still able to help somebody with what I've already been through. Like can't speak that far ahead because I don't know exactly where the way life may go. But for what I have been through, I am able to share those parts. And I used to be kind of embarrassed about it because not only just the things that I went through, but the things that I put myself through, because I stayed a lot of times in things that I knew I had no business staying in, or like I got entangled with things that I knew I had no business. So it's like I self-sabotage too. So it's like I can't put the blame on other people because a lot of the things, you know, like it gave me a brain too, you know. So it's like I just wasn't using it wisely. I wasn't making smart decisions. I wasn't making wise decisions. So I feel like now that I do make better decisions and better choices, that I am able to help that person that may be going through it currently.
Yes. And I like that you shared, like, there are parts of our journey when we are alone and we have to come to ourselves. Yes. We have to recognize where we are and what needs to be changed. And that's just something between you and God at that point. But then as you begin, like you said, to walk out your process toward fulfilling your purpose-driven freedom, you will find yourself connected with people who have like minds, yes. People who are not completely healed, because it's a process. And this is something important I want to say right here, because one of my pet peeves, I guess is the term I'm looking for, or one of the things that annoys me, is when people say hurt people hurt people. Because though it is sometimes true, it's not always true. There are times when you're hurting and you can look across the street and recognize hurt in somebody else, that other people may not recognize. So you grab that person by the hand and you say, let's walk through this together. Everybody that's hurting is not out looking to hurt other people. Sometimes in my most hurtful, painful places, I was able to connect with people who were also hurting. And I would say, okay, you're hurting, I'm hurting, we're both going through something. Let's go through this together. Let's be a support for each other. And it's like you were referring to the ladies that you journal with every day and you talk with every day. That is important as we're moving toward our freedom, is that we recognize that we are not alone. Because one of the biggest things that is used against us in our minds is that everything we do is the absolute worst thing any human being's ever done. Even though when you get older and you get more mature and you get to a level of freedom, you look back and you realize there's millions of people doing the same thing. But at the time, you feel like, oh my God, I'm dirt, I'm scum, I know better, blah, blah, blah. And then it takes you getting healed beyond that point to say, okay, there's somebody else going through this. There's somebody else doing this. There's somebody else doing it even worse. So let me reach out to somebody and say, I went through that. I survived. Come on, let me help you survive as well.
I agree.
Good. So I want you to continue. I think it's important that you continue to share your story. I am proud of the fact that you have gotten beyond the pain, the fear of rejection sometimes causes us to get stuck, because we feel like if I move and they don't move, and they're not going to want to be bothered with me anymore. If I reveal what I went through and how they played a part in it, they're going to feel like I'm just bashing them. And you can spend the rest of your life, you know, bouncing around back and forth, trying to decide how free am I going to be. But that's a part of freedom, is to be free to tell your story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as you pursue, you know, the writing and the other ventures, whatever creative ideas God has placed on your heart, I just want to encourage you to just stay free. There will always be temptation to go backwards.
Yes.
Do you ever find yourself in a position where you get overwhelmed with something that's going on, and the first thing you think about is, I need to shut down again and go back to myself?
Yes. I've done that a lot. shutdown was kind of my thing. Like I was one of those ones that I would just isolate myself, my misery didn't really like company. So it's like whenever I was going through things, I never really wanted to be around a bunch of people. Like I don't really like to be around a bunch of people all the time anyway, but just when I'm in those moments, like I never really wanted to be surrounded by a bunch of people because of the fact, like I knew I probably should have, honestly, looking back at it now, because it probably would help me get out of that funk. But it's like, I just didn't. I wanted to just be alone by myself. It was just me and my thoughts. And you already know how that goes. You're just sitting in there making yourself more miserable. So it's like, now being able to like freely talk about it, being able to discuss and not having to worry about, the way other people feel or the way they may think, because if that's how I feel, that's how I feel. And thank you for that, because I mean, you really brought that out of me, honestly, because you were like, it's okay to feel the emotion, and all that stuff and talk about it. Whereas before, I just kind of like suppressed a lot of things. I suppressed a lot of things. And so like being able to open up about that, as well as like writing it down now, has been helpful as well. Like actually feeling the emotion, but not being stuck there. Whereas before I would feel the emotion and stay stuck there. So I thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, because I had to learn that. It was one of the lessons I had to learn from experience, that I feel what I feel. And for years, we were made feel guilty for what we were feeling. Especially in the church, because everything was, if it's a bad feeling, then it's coming from the devil, and you need to pray and get over it. And then you couldn't really talk to anybody because they're like, well, why are you even feeling that? I remember when I was dealing with anxiety and depression before I was hospitalized, and the church people telling me, well, if you pray more, you wouldn't have this problem. If you read the Bible, you wouldn't be depressed. And I'm like, that is crazy. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. But of course, I didn't know how to verbalize that. But as I've gotten older and more mature and went through that process, I realized that the first step toward me getting help was acknowledge that I was having these issues. And so this is my philosophy, feel what you feel, because you can't process through it if you don't even admit that you feel it.
Right.
And even as we journey forward, and as long as there's breath in our body, there's always going to be challenges. And there's always going to be times when you feel like, okay, I overcame that. I made it through that. But some other curveball is going to come along and hit you upside the head unexpectedly. And so you just have to prepare yourself to say, whatever comes, I'm going to feel how I feel. Absolutely. I'm going to find out what I need to do to walk through this, but I'm not going to pretend I don't feel it. And that's one of the things I definitely preach. That's like my mantra. I feel what I feel. When I hear people saying somebody, they lost someone or that someone died, and people automatically start quoting scriptures and, oh, they're in a better place. And, we don't grieve like the world grieves. What in the world? Like, the bottom line is, right, my loved one is gone and I'm going to miss them. I don't care about them being in a better place. I want them in this place because I want them here with me. And once we are able to be real about that, then we can start making better decisions and we can be better together. I think one of the issues why we're so separated is because people just don't feel like they can be real with each other. And so I'm glad that you found people that you can connect with that will remind you of that. And I pray that you don't go back to that place. Yes, you will have days, like I still have days right now, and I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to see nobody. What are you coming over here for? I didn't call you. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Like, why are you at this door? I didn't ask you to come over. But I kind of been like that all my life. I think my father used to be like that. My father was very church. He was about the church business, but once he was out of church, he didn't want to be bothered.
Right.
Like, after church was over, we went home. In every house we ever lived in, he had a room that was designated as his space. And he would go in there and watch TV, eat peanuts. That was his space, period. Whereas my mom was a total opposite. She was more a people person. And she always had, was content with people being around. So I guess I get that after my father, because I just don't want to be bothered with a lot of people. Like after I do the ministry part or whatever, I'm like, my home is my sanctuary, wherever it is. If it's in a castle or if it's in a ghetto, it's my space, and I don't need a whole bunch of people here. Like, what are you doing? How long are you gonna be? Bye. And that's my freedom.
Right.
You know, and my son teased me because like I was just fussing about how I felt like they weren't taking the pandemic seriously. They're always here, there, and everywhere. Every time I talk to them, they're going somewhere or they just came back from somewhere. And I'm like, oh my God, don't y'all realize that we're quarantined? And he said to me one day, he says, Mom, you were quarantined way before the coronavirus ever came. You don't go anywhere. So you can't expect everybody to just sit in the house and do nothing because that's what you do. Wow. So at that point, I ain't say nothing else. Whatever happens.
Right.
But seriously, I respect people for who they are and where they are on their journey, and I do what I can to help. But you must first acknowledge where you are. So what do you see? I don't want to know what anybody else has said to you. What does Chantay see as next on your journey with your purpose-driven freedom? And what is your overall vision? What do you see you're doing in the long run?
Definitely getting my book finished. I definitely feel like that'll help a lot of people with just seeing my life from my eyes or from my standpoint. I definitely feel like that'll help people. And then ultimately, like overall, just like a big community type center or transitional homes for women and girls like me, and also I definitely want to dive into like helping the homeless more as well. So even if that was to all come together, it's just like a big community type thing. But if not, then separate like transitional homes or group homes like that, just to be able to be personable with them. And I feel like how you spoke about before, people, like we can quote all scriptures all day long, but I feel like a lot of people are practical. So like show them our scars, like the things that we actually went through, the things that we were able to come through, and even things we may still be fighting with now, but we have a better understanding now than when we first started out on this journey. So definitely just trying to be who he created me to be, and definitely keep the mindset that I have and not going back. I can't go back. I can't afford to go back. So yeah, I definitely say that's what's next for me, I believe.
That's powerful. I'm proud of you, as I keep saying, because I think sometimes I think back on my journey to where I am now, and I still have a lot of things that I'd like to do, praying for the health and the resources to do those things. But I think there's a lot of times on my journey where I didn't get the encouragement that I felt I needed. And so I try to do that to other people all the time. Like I try to speak positive. I try to, tell young women, you're beautiful, you're gorgeous. And I try to say, oh my God, you're so smart. You can do this, you can do that. Because I think the more we say these things to people, the more they'll come to realize, yes, I am smart. I am beautiful. I am worthy of love that is not damaging. I am worthy of being in a relationship that builds me up, not tears me down. And so those are the things that I want for you and other young women such as yourself. And so again, I want to thank you for spending time with me today.
You're welcome for having me.
I thought about when I was having trouble with the connection a few minutes ago. And I was like, I wonder if I should stop and start over. And then I remember the comment I made to you yesterday about you being here with me at the beginning.
Right.
While I'm doing, got my low budget talk show. And then when I get big and blown up, I'll remember you because you were here. And what did you say?
Start from the bottom now, you hear. I'm not fooling with you.
I started from the bottom down here. But yeah, I just believe that, you know, sometimes, and you know how when I first came up with this idea to do this, I was hesitant because I felt like I don't have the equipment I like to have. I don't have the background, the banners, none of the stuff that I see other people doing on their shows. And a scripture came to me when God spoke to Moses to deliver the children of Israel, and then he spoke about parting the Red Sea. And Moses was like, oh, like, you know, what am I supposed to be doing here? And God, the voice of God said to him, what do you have in your hand?
Yes.
And so this is what I keep reminding myself, and what I want to remind you, that yes, we have big visions and we have goals and dreams, and we should have those. But at this point, we have to use what we have. And those who will support you are going to support you, and those who won't. But again, that just shows you sometimes we got to go through that pruning phase of cutting things off in order to get to that fulfillment of our purpose-driven freedom. And that includes people as well as character traits and attitudes and what have you. So again, I thank you for joining me today, taking time out of your very, very busy schedule.
Thank you for having me.
And I really appreciate you more than I even know how to say. And I want you to keep your head up, be encouraged, and keep doing great things.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay. And we'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.